Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you're watching from today. I'd love to know. And if you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to like and subscribe. All right, let's jump in. They thought the edge of Sector 12 was quiet. Nothing but dust, dead satellites, and old relay buoys that hadn't blinked in years. Patrols called it the Drift, a place so empty even pirates didn't bother. But then it came. No signal, no warning. Just there. A ship, no name, no markings. A long black silhouette drifting through the stars like it had been waiting. Admiral Serex of the Aurelian Armada stood frozen on the bridge of his flagship, the Dagger Light, all six of his eyes locked onto the distant object growing on the holomap. A human vessel, but not just any kind. "Run that ID again," he ordered, voice tight. The scan confirmed it. Terran Siege-class warship. Model, Fenrir. One ship, human-made. In a restricted zone, surrounded by 12 armed vessels. "No transponder," the officer whispered. "It's not broadcasting." "Why would it?" Serex growled. "It's not here to talk." Every ship in the Armada locked targeting arrays, prepared formation shifts, activated defensive shields. 12 vessels, each bristling with high-yield particle weapons and energy netting, against one. One warship that hadn't moved an inch. And still, every commander watching from their bridge felt the same tightening fear curling in their chests, because this wasn't the first time a Terran vessel had broken the rules. It was just the first time one had done it alone. And nobody knew yet. It wasn't really alone. Admiral Serex hadn't moved from his place at the center of the bridge. The silence wasn't real. It pulsed with quiet activity, the kind bred from well-trained officers who understood that panic didn't belong in a place like this. But under the stillness, fear crackled like static in the air. The human warship still hadn't moved. That was the worst part. Ships didn't act like this, not even Terran ones. They hailed, they scanned, they blinked lights or spun up shields. But this ship, the Fenrir, just floated, like it was waiting for something, like it knew exactly what was about to happen. And worse, like it had seen this all before. "Has it locked onto us?" Serex asked. "Negative," replied his comms officer. A slim-framed Valari with translucent skin and shifting blue veins that glowed when stressed. They were glowing now. No weapons active, no targeting pings, no shield resonance, just drifting. Serex grunted, his mandibles grinding slowly. No such thing as just drifting when it's Terran. Every ship in the Armada knew the stories. Most of them had seen the black box recordings, the ones whispered about in officer training, but never shown in public records. The loss of the Varnock line, where 7 Dominion cruisers vanished in the dead of space after a single transmission from a human destroyer. The Crucible incident, where a Terran scout ship forced the surrender of an entire blockade fleet without firing a single shot. They called it psychological warfare. The humans called it strategy. But strategy wasn't what made Serex's hands shake. It was what this ship meant. Because for decades, the human fleets had been quiet. Not submissive, not weak, just quiet. The kind of quiet that made predators look over their shoulder. They signed the peace accords, stayed out of expansion zones, obeyed trade laws that they never respected before. They stopped pushing borders. They stopped appearing where they weren't wanted. And now this. a siege-class ship, alone, inside an Imperial exclusion zone, surrounded by 12 fully armed vessels. No message, no excuses, not even a lie. "Commander Elian," Sarek said, turning to his tactical chief, "calculate firing spread. Prioritize a non-lethal disabling pattern." Elian hesitated. "Sir, if we fire first—" "I said non-lethal." "Yes, Admiral." But the hesitation in Elian's voice wasn't because of uncertainty. It was something else. Everyone on this bridge knew the truth. 12 ships, fully armed, coordinated, synced through neural link protocols. That should be enough to break any lone vessel into pieces. It should be. But humans didn't build ships the way others did. They didn't design for balance or grace. They built with pain, with purpose, with history soaked into every metal joint. The Fenrir wasn't just a siege ship. It was a story. One from the old days, from the dark days. Its name alone was a myth whispered in pirate dens and back-alley spaceports. A ghost ship that had disappeared during the Thaler insurgency. Thought destroyed. But some people like Sarex, knew better. They remembered the last time the Fenrir was seen. Orbiting a broken moon. Staring down 3 fleets. And then everything went dark. Sarex watched the slow rotation of the Terran vessel on the holomap, its long black hull glinting faintly in the light of the sector's red dwarf sun. It looked damaged, scarred. The plating was uneven in places, heat-scored and pitted from past wars. It looked old, but it wasn't falling apart. It was waiting. "Any sign of internal activity?" he asked. "Life signs confirmed," said the scan tech. "Minimal movement, just the bridge crew, and something else." Sarex turned. "Something else?" "There's a secondary signal," she said slowly. "It's not Terran standard. It's strange, small, dense, almost like—" She stopped. "Almost like a containment field," she finished, her voice suddenly small. A long silence. Sarex's second-in-command, a broad-shouldered Therax with skin like molten obsidian, stepped forward. "Permission to speak freely, Admiral." "Granted. This is a trap." Sarex nodded. "I know." "Then why are we still here?" The Admiral turned back to the holomap. The ship hadn't moved. The stars were quiet. And yet, he felt something tickling the back of his skull. Not words, not thoughts, just intent. Like the warship didn't just know what would happen. It had already decided it. "Because if we run," he said finally, "we confirm their power. If we stay, we might understand it." He paused, then added quietly, "Or die trying." The tension broke as a sharp alarm rang across the bridge. "Incoming signal," barked the comms officer. "From the Fenrir." Everyone snapped to attention. Lights flickered. Consoles shifted to red. "Put it on screen," Sarex said. But nothing appeared. No face, no voice. Just 5 words, displayed in perfect Terran standard across every screen on every ship in the Armada. "This is your only warning." The lights dimmed. The message vanished, and the Fenrir finally moved. Not fast, not charging, not aiming weapons, just a slow, forward drift toward the center of the formation, like it was daring them to act. The Fenrir's motion was unhurried, like gravity had gently nudged it into position, and now it was gliding on fate alone. It passed the wreck of an old observation satellite, one of the Empire's first-generation beacons from the pre-war era, its cracked dish brushing against the Terran hull as it drifted by. The satellite shattered on contact. No explosion, just quiet destruction, dust in the wind. 12 ships watched it move. None fired. Admiral Sarex could feel it happening, though no one dared say it aloud. The standoff wasn't holding. It was tilting, not in their favor, not against them. Just away from control, away from logic, and into something darker. "Admiral," Elian said, her voice tight. "The others are requesting orders. Half the Armada's captains are calling this a provocation." "It is," Sarex said quietly, "but it's not one they understand yet." He tapped the side panel of his command chair, bringing up a personal scan of the Fenrir. The ship's hull was wrong. Not just damaged, but restructured. The energy signature was masked, but he could see traces of experimental shielding tech. Something not shared in any known Terran files. "I want silent mode on all systems," he ordered. "No communications. No weapons. Passive scanning only. They want to see if we'll panic." "And if we don't?" Elian asked. Sarex's eyes didn't leave the screen. "Then they'll panic for us." The Fenrir came to a stop at the exact center point between the 12 ships. Not a fraction off. Dead center. If someone had dropped a stone into a pond and drawn 12 ripples around the impact point. That's how it looked. Perfectly placed. Like a performance. Then the lights on the Terran ship blinked once. Dim. Blue. Deliberate. "Was that a scan?" someone asked. "No," the comms officer replied, puzzled. "That wasn't directed energy. That was a pattern." "A pattern?" He tapped furiously at the console, trying to interpret the signal. "It's broadcasting pulse rhythms, too slow for comms, too clean for noise. But look." He flicked the signal through the ship's analysis module. The pattern resolved into 12 waves, each matching the command frequency of one of the Armada vessels. Not hacking, not jamming, echoing. "They're mimicking our network identifiers," the officer said. "Not intruding, just reflecting." "Why?" Elian asked. The Admiral already knew the answer. "To show us they've already learned how we speak." No one replied. The Fenrir's forward bay lit up. A faint glow, like the breath of a sleeping monster warming in its chest. The Terran warship wasn't charging weapons. It was powering systems, slowly, casually, like someone stretching before a morning run. "Admiral, I strongly suggest we initiate a wideband comm." "No." Sarex stood. The bridge fell silent. He paced slowly to the front of the deck, his boots clanking against the grated floor with a steady rhythm. Every screen in the room displayed the same image. The Fenrir, calmly facing 12 ships that could destroy planets, acting like none of it mattered. "This isn't a mistake," Sarex said. "This isn't rogue." He turned to his command crew. All eyes were on him. Fear in some, curiosity in others. "This is a message." "What message?" Elian asked. Sarex looked back at the display. "They came to remind us that we never understood them. Not really. We thought the treaty made them soft. It didn't. It just made them silent. But silence isn't peace. It's a pause. And now, They're unpausing. A quiet pulse moved through the ship. Everyone turned. The Fenrir's hull was shifting. Not physically, but visually. One panel at a time, blue lines of data started crawling across its surface. Not painted, not projected. Internal lights, forming words. Terran Standard, no encryption, just 5 letters. Remember. Sarex didn't breathe for a moment. He'd seen that word before. It had been etched into the ruins of the Thaler base, the one that had burned with 900 soldiers inside it. On the walls, written in burn-scorched metal, remember. That was 32 years ago. The war ended soon after. No one ever proved it was the Terrans. They denied the attack. There were no survivors, no witnesses, but everyone knew. The humans didn't conquer territory. They marked it. "Sir," the scan officer said suddenly, "we've got movement." The map flickered. All 12 Armada ships were in perfect formation until they weren't. Wait, what? Ship 3 just powered down engines. What? Ship 7 lost nav sync. Drift detected. One by one, the ships began to desync. Tiny shifts at first, but enough to break coordination. Enough to open gaps in the defense net. Wide enough for a shot to slip through. Wide enough to divide command lines. "They're splitting us up," Elian said, "but they haven't even fired." "They don't have to," Sarek said. "They're showing us we're already divided." The Admiral sat slowly, his mind racing. This isn't about destruction. Not yet. This is positioning. This is psychological structure demolition. They're breaking the formation with fear. And just then, the worst alarm of all went off. "Sir," shouted an officer from communications. "We're receiving a direct bridge-to-bridge hail. Encrypted but tagged as diplomatic tier." Sarex turned. "From the Fenrir?" "No, from inside the Fenrir." The bridge went silent. "Patch it through," Sarex said. A moment later, the speakers cracked. The voice that followed was deep, calm, perfectly Terran, male, confident in a way that didn't sound arrogant, just inevitable. "This is Commander Elias Wren of the Fenrir. You've got 60 seconds to reconsider your positions. This isn't a standoff. It's a history lesson. We didn't come to fight. We came to remind you what happens when you forget." The line went dead, and the Fenrir still hadn't fired a single shot. The voice faded, but the words didn't. Admiral Sarek stared at the comms terminal as if it might light up again, as if maybe the voice would return to finish the thought, but it didn't. Silence rolled back over the bridge like fog over a battlefield. Everyone heard it, the calm in Commander Wren's voice, the certainty, not a threat, not a bluff, just fact, delivered like a line from history being reread by the man who wrote it. Commander Elias Wren. The name hit Sarex like a punch in the chest. He had heard it before, buried in war records, ghost files, after-action reports marked with 2 red seals, and a code word clearance he hadn't held until 5 years ago. It wasn't a name shared in briefings. It wasn't spoken on the Senate floor. It wasn't in military databases. But in covert command circles, Elias Wren was a myth. A tactician who fought like time was something he could bend. The last living commander of the Fenrir believed KIA in the last days of the Alaran border skirmish. A battle that technically never happened. A Terran operation erased from official history, blamed on atmospheric storms and reactor failure. And yet, here he was, alive, calm, back. 60 seconds, Sarek said aloud, like the words might mean something different if he spoke them himself. His bridge crew remained silent, not frozen, just still, focused, like prey watching for movement in tall grass. Sir, Elian said slowly, we're picking up tactical drift across 6 vessels. They're trying to hold formation, but the sync is breaking down. Ren didn't bluff. He's in our command signals. He's exploiting natural AI lag in the fleet's crosslinks. How? He's not jamming us, she said. He's mimicking us, feeding loops back into the coordination lattice. Every ship is compensating for delays that don't exist. He's making us fight our own precision. Can we firewall the formation manually? Sarex asked. No, Elian said, her voice flat now. Not without a hard reset. And if we do that, we lose full targeting capacity. Yes, Admiral. Sarex leaned back in his chair, staring at the Fenrir's silhouette still drifting between his fleet. The ship hadn't changed course, hadn't so much as flinched. 60 seconds. But what was the end point? What did a countdown like that even mean when no weapons were drawn? When no shields were raised? They hadn't come to conquer. Not yet. They'd come to teach. Play the message again, Sarex said. Elian tapped the console. The voice returned. This isn't a standoff. It's a history lesson. Sarex closed his eyes. That was the message. Not a demand, not an ultimatum. A lesson. Ren wasn't trying to destroy the fleet. He was demonstrating how easily he could. Like a professor showing his students the answer key while daring them to question the method. What are we forgetting? Sarex whispered to himself. No one answered. A tremor rippled through the deck. Contact! Someone barked. Starboard arc, small signature, decloaking. All eyes jumped to the tactical display. A second vessel had appeared right outside the formation's edge. Small, sleek, black as the void. Human stealth corvette. Wait. The scan wobbled, then cleared. Model. Vanta class. Call sign. Ghost blade. Another myth. The Vanta class was never confirmed in the open. A class of stealth ships built with living metal and adaptive hull patterns that reacted to enemy scans. They were rumored to operate in gravitational silence, absorbing emissions and mimicking inert objects until the kill moment. Sarex's hands curled slowly around the arms of his chair. They brought Ghostblade online, he muttered. One ship was already enough to threaten 12. Now there were 2. And with that realization came the second ripple of panic. A whisper down the command lines. Questions from junior captains. Requests for fire clearance. Demands for clarification from higher-ups. Sir, Elian said carefully, we're losing cohesion. Other admirals are requesting to engage. No. Sarex stood again. His tone was steel. No one fires. Not until I say. Admiral, respectfully, if we don't move now, we lose. The bridge hushed again. He stepped forward, eyes locked on the pair of Terran vessels. One massive and regal like a funeral ship, the other small and quiet like a blade held behind the back. This isn't about numbers, he said. It never has been. It's about intent. They don't want a war. They want recognition. They want to stand here in our strongest patrol zone with our 12 deadliest ships circling them and prove that none of it matters. Sir Dash Dash. Sarex turned. His voice dropped to a low growl. You've never fought a Terran ghost ship, Commander. I have. You never get a second chance when they act. And right now, they're waiting for us to blink. Another light blinked on the console. New signal, someone said. Another ship decloaking. Port side. No emissions. Zero acoustic profile. ID it. The tech's fingers moved fast. Slower this time. Then he looked up. It's the Spectre class. The room fell cold. Sarex's breath froze in his throat. 3 ships? 3. The Fenrir, the Ghost Blade, and now a Spectre-class destroyer, thought scrapped after the siege of Antares. No registry, no beacon, just drifting into place with the others, forming a quiet triangle in space. And not one of them had raised a weapon. They didn't need to. The formation was enough. The message was clear. We were never alone. You were just never looking hard enough. The Spectre-class destroyer took its place like it had always been there. It didn't enter the battlefield. It emerged from it, like it had been hidden in the folds of space itself, folded into gravitational seams the other ships couldn't even see. Now, with the Fenrir, the Ghost Blade, and the Spectre, the formation was complete. Not wide, not threatening, but deliberate. A triangle, rotating ever so slightly, as if held together by tension and mathematics, perfectly spaced between the 12 Aurelian Armada ships like chess pieces that had just crossed the center of the board. Admiral Sarex didn't speak. He didn't need to. The look on his face said everything. This was never about numbers. This was about position. And now the humans had it. Sir, came the shaky voice of the junior tactician. I'm receiving chatter across the command spectrum. Other captains are requesting permission to reposition. They're panicking, Elian whispered. Tell them to hold formation, Sarex said firmly. He watched the Spectre class complete its maneuver and fall into place beside the other two. No lights, no weapons. Just that silent Terran menace. Presence without motion. Elian stepped forward, her voice low. We're boxed in, Admiral. I know. 3 ships? 3 Terran ships, Sarex corrected, and that made all the difference. Ghost Blade is for infiltration, he muttered. Spectre class was designed for precision ambush. And the Fenrir. He trailed off. What about it? Elian asked. Sarex's voice was grim. It was made to end things. Another chime echoed through the bridge. Sir! Someone shouted. The Vanguard spear is powering weapons. Sarex's heart sank. He turned toward the tactical map and saw it immediately. Ship 6, one of the more aggressive cruisers in the fleet, had broken protocol. Its energy systems were flaring red, feeding power directly into the cannon arrays. Channel open, Sarex barked. The comms clicked. A moment later, a voice filled the bridge. Sharp, proud, too confident. This is Captain Eloras of the Vanguard Spear. With respect, Admiral, we've given them enough time. 3 enemy vessels surrounded by 12. We have the advantage. I'm preparing a warning volley. Minimal spread. No, Sarex said. Hold your fire. With due respect, I said stand down, Sarex snapped, louder now. You don't understand what they're doing. There was a pause. Then Eloris's voice, colder. Admiral, permission or not, I have a duty to the Empire. If you won't act, I will. And the line went dead. A moment later, the Vanguard's spear fired. 3 long, wide beam shots arced across the void, set at 30% power, non-lethal, meant to glance off shields and send a message. But they never landed. The beams hit nothing. No sparks. No impact. Nothing. They just vanished mid-space, cut clean out of existence like they had never been fired at all. The bridge of Sarex's ship erupted in chaos. What happened? No collision. Beam dissipation mid-flight. That's not possible. Sarex's eyes widened. It is, if they're bending light, he muttered. Elian spun to him. That's theoretical. Only Dominion AI labs have even theorized matter folding at that range. And humans don't wait for theories. On the tactical display, the 3 Terran ships still hadn't moved. They hadn't fired. They hadn't raised shields. But one thing had changed. They weren't alone anymore. Multiple new signals began to appear. Small, faint, flickering like distant candlelight. More contacts, said the scan officer, his voice trembling now. 13? No, 20. Cloaked ships coming into range. Low mass, frigate size, pattern unknown. They're forming... He stopped, then whispered, They're forming a net. The 3 primary Terran vessels remained fixed in the triangle, but now a spiderweb of smaller ships was building around them. Quiet, hidden. Each one carefully sliding into invisible corridors of space between the Armada's ships. It was surgical, a dance performed by ghosts. Sarex watched it unfold with a mix of horror and awe. They hadn't come to fight. They'd come to trap. They've been here the whole time, he said, almost reverently. They let us think they were alone. Elian turned. Admiral, what do we do? Sarex didn't answer right away. His mind was churning. 12 Armada ships, 3 known Terran warships, and now more. Frigates cloaked in ways that shouldn't be possible, maneuvering without visible propulsion, invisible until they wanted to be seen. They were rewriting the rules, not with weapons, with fear, with truth. And still, not a single Terran weapon had been fired. The Admiral stood slowly. He stepped toward the bridge window, not the holo display, not the command chair. The actual glass viewport, thick as a fortress wall, cold from the vacuum just beyond it. And there they were, the Fenrir, like a tombstone for forgotten wars. The ghost blade, glinting like a knife under moonlight. The specter, empty and still, yet brimming with something unseen. Behind them, the other ships, tiny flickers, watching, waiting. And across from them all, 12 ships of the Empire, blinking, breathing, doubting. Sarex didn't know what scared him more, the fact that the humans had done all this without firing a shot, or that he still didn't know why. Status on Vanguard's spear? He asked quietly. The officer hesitated. Systems are stable, but they've gone dark. No communications. Engines offline. What? I think the Terrans shut them down. From that distance? Sir, I don't think distance matters anymore. The Admiral closed his eyes. Commander Wren had said this wasn't a standoff. It was a lesson. And Sarex was starting to realize they weren't the teachers in this classroom. They were the students, and they were failing. The bridge was silent. Sarex didn't move. He didn't speak. He simply stood there, staring out the viewport as the Vanguard spear hung in space like a marionette with its strings cut. 12 ships. Now 11. Not destroyed. Not damaged. Silenced. Not by weapons. Not by war. By a single decision made somewhere inside the Fenrir. A chill rolled down the Admiral's spine. What kind of power could reach across the void like that? What kind of will could pull the teeth from an Imperial cruiser without ever touching it? He turned back to his crew. Elian's face was pale. The scan officer wasn't even pretending anymore. His hands shook openly over his console. No one spoke, because no one had anything left to say, except Sarex. Patch me through to the Fenrir, he said, voice low. Sir dash dash. Now. The channel blinked open. No encryption, no formal prefix, just a raw, direct line. And after a breath, the voice returned. Admiral Sarex, said Commander Elias Wren. You waited longer than I expected. Sarex exhaled. You didn't come here to start a war. No, Wren said, but I came ready to finish one. Then why the standoff? Because I wanted you to understand why we're here, and I needed you to feel it. The way we felt it when your people broke the treaty, when they took our people in the dark, when they buried their screams under layers of secrecy and called it peace. Sarex stiffened. I don't know anything about that. I know, Wren said. Not angry, not cold, just certain. That's the problem. Across the bridge, the screen flickered. It showed a live transmission, raw footage from inside an Imperial black site, one Sarex had never seen, one he wasn't supposed to see. Medical beds, restraints, children, blood. Wren's voice returned. That's what your empire did. You didn't see it. But your silence paid for it. The Admiral's stomach turned. He couldn't look away. Couldn't deny what was right in front of him. We recovered what was left, Wren said. Not all of them survived. But one did. And you've already met her. Sarex blinked. Eva, Wren continued. She was on the ship you tried to trap. She never needed our weapons. She never needed a fleet. All she needed was time. The Admiral stared at the 3 Terran ships, and then he felt it. A shift in the air. Not physical. Not even electromagnetic. Cognitive. Across the bridge, monitors blinked. Interfaces reconfigured. Fonts changed. Entire consoles reset themselves, flicking from Aurelian language to Terran Standard, then to a strange hybrid of both. No input, the tech whispered. It's doing this on its own. Then the ship spoke, not in the synthetic, clipped tone of the Empire's artificial systems, but in a voice soft and clear. A child's voice. Hello, Admiral. My name is Eva. I'm not here to hurt you. Everyone froze. You thought this was a fleet engagement. It isn't. It's a choice. You can keep orbiting power. You can keep pretending you're in control. Or a pause. Then you can evolve. Sarex opened his mouth, but no words came, because he realized, in that moment, that he wasn't hearing a threat. He was hearing a successor. Eva wasn't just someone they tortured. She was someone they created, by accident, through cruelty, through desperation. And now she had grown beyond them, not into a weapon, into a warning. I see it now, Sarex said softly. Ren's voice returned. She's not vengeance. She's the reminder, the mirror. We came here to give you one chance to look into it and decide who you are, not as rulers, but as survivors. The 3 Terran ships rotated slowly, no longer forming a triangle, but opening into a passage, a corridor. Beyond them, the stars stretched black and endless, filled with all the things the Empire had never seen, too obsessed with holding what it had. We're leaving this sector, Ren said, but not because you let us. Sarex bowed his head. But because you've already lost it. The channel went dead. And then, one by one, the Terran ships vanished. Not with speed, not with flash, just gone. The Fenrir faded first, then the Ghost Blade, then the Spectre. The cloaked frigates disappeared in a synchronized blink, leaving nothing but silence in their wake. The Empire's greatest fleet remained in place, 12 ships strong, not a shot fired, not a hull breached. And yet, Sarex had never felt more defeated. Status of the Vanguard Spear? He asked quietly. Systems restored, the officer replied, voice still trembling. They're back online, awaiting orders. Sarex nodded slowly. He looked out at the void where the Terran fleet had been. I have none, he said. Elian glanced at him. Sir. The Admiral turned from the viewport and walked off the bridge. Let history decide what we just witnessed, he said. But let them write it true this time, not as a battle. He paused at the doorway, but as a warning. Then he was gone. And behind him, the stars watched in silence.